Mic'd up.
Welcome everybody to Hall of Fame Conversations presented by the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, celebrating Florida's great athletes and coaches since 1961 and brought to you by Mic'd Up, a platform that is live, interactive, brand safe, and professionally moderated. I'm your host, John Rager, a PJ member broadcaster, and joined by Rick Hatcher, FSU baseball great, CEO of Treasure Coast Sports, and past chair of the Florida Sports Hall of Fame. Our guest today is a living legend of Florida State University women's softball and still not done yet, and an incoming enshrinee for the class of 2025 into the Florida Sports Hall of Fame later this year in Bradenton, Florida at the Bradenton Area Convention Center, November 18th and 19th. Let's welcome Lonni Alameda.
Hello.
Welcome, Lonni. Welcome.
Hi.
Yeah.
My fellow Seminoles. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. To all of our fellow Seminoles that are out there, go garnet and gold and everything. But again, Lonni, on behalf of as being past chair with this and knowing what the enshrinement means to so many coaches and players and everything, and to become part of this elite class with strong ties to the state of Florida. What was it like whenever you learned about being selected to be part of the 2025 class for the Florida Sports Hall of Fame?
Yeah, well, I received an email and I replied back like, "Is this for me?" Like I wasn't really sure. So, obviously I've heard the Florida Sports Hall of Fame. Barry Smith and I are pretty good friends, so we've definitely over the years talked about it, and it's such an honor. And so originally didn't really know it was for me. Very excited, very honored. I think we all set out in the coaching world and to try to make a difference, and I think that's something that we as a coaching staff here have tried to do for the sport of softball, and to be recognized in that arena is pretty awesome.
Right. It is. It's the accolades there, and the fact that you won the national championship, I believe, back in 2018 was a special moment. And being part of Mike Martin's first 2 years at Florida State when I played baseball there in 80 and 81, and getting to the men's College World Series, just what that meant. And the fact you were able to walk away with the championship. What does winning that championship, and so two-part, winning the championship for a program like you've created, but also with all the hard work that Coach Graff is in as she started the program, and to have you come in and continue it. What was the role of that national championship to continue to help build what you are building at Florida State?
Yeah, I think I'm fortunate to have known many former coaches and players too, even before Coach Graff, and Dr. Billy Jones when, she was coaching Coach Graff. And, I came in at a good time to be able to build relationships with them and, in true fashion of the Seminole tribe, and being able to tell stories. And I feel like all of our alumni and coaches have been able to share with our current players stories. And even though Dr. Jones had passed on, we have a good relationship with her stories and Dr. Wells. And so it just feeds the legacy piece and the honor, of being a Seminole and what we're trying to do here. And Coach Graff has been incredible. She keeps coming back year in and year out and sharing her stories and being a fan of the game too. I mean, it never leaves us, right? Like, when you're a player and a coach, like you're a fan of sport and you're a fan of the game. And so it just never leaves you. And Coach Graff sits up there in the stands and, cheers us on. And, it's pretty awesome to have her there. And I'm sure one day I'll be that person too, as someone else takes the reins and, moves on. So, but in reference to your question about what it means, I think for me personally, I've always taken the challenges. And in the ACC, there was just no ACC flag in Oklahoma City. And there was, a lot of people saying you had to be in the SEC or had to be different places to win championships. Right. And they push that narrative on you. And, we're in that narrative a lot here. And so being able to prove that not only can you win a championship, but many years being in the championship game itself, is a feat itself. It's really tough to do. Yeah. getting tougher and tougher. And so, I think that we take a lot of pride in that and showing that this conference can contribute to that. This conference can open up a lot more opportunities for young women to excel in the classroom and on the field. And now, we're really like pushing the professional levels and the Olympic levels. And, if you have more athletes training at a high level with support, you get more opportunities. And I just think we opened the window for that. And I think that is what really struck a chord and, was pretty awesome for us to be able to plant the ACC flag and the Florida State flag in Oklahoma City.
Hey,
Well,
one thing I want to touch upon there, I've just listened to you talk about the storytelling. I know the Seminole tribe is a good friend of the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, and
Mhm.
and knowing that in the Indian culture, they do storytelling to pass down the heritage, the information, the knowledge the elders of the tribe pass down, and it's still something that is I know that probably is maybe that could be the key to your success because it's everybody in especially Division I sports now. I mean, I know it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of time. All the athletes are the best of the best, all the facilities are the best of the best, the coaches like yourself, you're the best of the best. But what distinguishes somebody from the others from a coaching standpoint to be successful, might be in that storytelling ability. I was really impressed how you say you brought the younger players. For example, I know in the game of golf, like we're working with kids, you work with you were talking about your camp, you got 8 and 9 year olds. Well, the 8 and 9 year olds in our junior golf programs, they have no idea who Tiger Woods is.
Mhm.
They knew who Happy Gilmore is, that's for
Yeah.
sure, but they have no idea who Tiger is.
Yeah.
And so the history is very important. Why don't you expound on that a little bit about the storytelling and the influence that it has on your players?
Yeah, I think we've been fortunate that the Seminole tribe members do come up here to Tallahassee, and we've been around Ollie and around some of the tribe members, and hey, come in the classroom and just share a little bit, and just simple stuff, right? Like let's talk about what turquoise represents, with heritage. Let's talk about beads, bead making. Why do we make beads? Why do we share beads? Like why do we do things like that, and I think when you like get little snippets, we're not going to read the whole book, but like little snippets here and there, and the storytelling puts the integrity to the name of the Seminole tribe, and who we represent, and also like the fabric of our being, I think is really unique. And so I don't ever want to offend anyone in the Seminole tribe, and so understanding and getting education on that side of it and hearing from the tribe members is really, really important for us. And so we really try to reach out quite a bit, and they do attend to, when they come up here and they try to share a little bit here and there. So I do think that's important. And I think it's important on the softball side, like you said, with Tiger Woods, like, our Jesse Warrens, our Megan Kings, our Lacey Waldrops, who will go in the Hall of Fame this year for Florida State, to come and share their journey too, because it doesn't change too much, honestly. Like, I know that we're like older and we're not playing anymore, but like our passions to play, we still had fear. We still didn't know if we were good enough. Like, all those things still are like part of the journey of finding yourself out and what you can do. And so by hearing those stories from the people that wore the jersey before you, again, just like puts a little fabric to the uniform and to the name. And so I just think that's truly important. And, we're just really lucky to have a community that embraces us with that and shares.
right.
Let's
You
talk
know,
about your journey here.
yeah.
How in the world did you get involved with all this? I know that my mom always, I would point to somebody and go, look at that person. They're an overnight success. My mom would go, yeah, about a 30-year overnight success.
Yeah.
So take us back. Take us back to how you got involved with sports as a kid or getting into school. What prompted you to take this path in your life?
Yeah. I mean, I was always a part of an outdoor family. We traveled a lot, and my mom and I rode horses, and I would show horses, and so very athletic, outdoor family. And I think with that, comes signing up for basketball, tennis, volleyball. Back in the day, there were certain times of the year you did certain
Hmm.
sports. It wasn't all year round, right? So I was able to be a part of everything. And I was okay athlete, but the game has definitely grown and changed. And I think for me, as I got into the opportunity to maybe play at the collegiate level, I went to the University of Oklahoma, and just started doing little like lessons and, just trying to make little ends meet here and there, and I just really fell in love with the pitching lesson part of it, and doing things. And the ASA Hall of Fame Stadium was there. It wasn't what it is today, with Devon Park, but it was definitely, that the start of it. And so I always used to go up there and do clinics, and it just got in my blood. And an opportunity came up at Barry University in Miami Shores, to go down and get my master's and coach. And, I just think that we all take a left and a right turn every now and then in life, and it just happens to be the right path. And I was so lucky to get on the right path of meeting good people in the game and good opportunities in the game that led me down there, that eventually led me to Stanford. I coached at Stanford for 10 years, then coached at UNLV, and then, ended up here at Florida State. And just very lucky on that side of it. And it's just all, to me, it's all about the people. I've just met really good people that's given me really good advice and opportunities. And I've kept it about the people all the time. And
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I know, as a former college baseball coach myself, several years ago, one of the elements, and I was a pitching coach as well. And you highlight you got 12 to 13 pitchers in baseball. I know you don't have that on the softball side. You got to have 12 or 13 different ways to communicate to
Mhm.
each player. And it seems like the people I've talked to, they've said you're one of the best communicators out there in talking to each one of your players to get the best out of them that day. And that conversation, and you see it right here. Can you think of anything that led you into what made you into being the great coach, but really the great communicator that you are?
Well, my degree was in communication, so maybe that was
Okay.
pretty part of my DNA. Maybe, I don't know. I had an amazing upbringing with grandparents and parents that were very social and very supportive, and so I think a lot of that comes from your upbringing, and I'm very
Yeah.
grateful for my parents. But I do know that when you start off and you do lessons, you
Hmm.
work with 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds, and you have to figure out different ways to communicate with young ones.
100%.
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel like that definitely helped me grow my way. And and I've always told people, like, well, how do you work on your coaching craft? And I was like, give lessons to young kids, give them to older kids, like figure out different ways to communicate, because they're like going to be a feel person, a touch person, a hear person. Everyone's just different in how they learn. And so the more you can get yourself in those situations, the more you learn about yourself and how
Yeah.
you're going to. So I think that's a lot of my foundation.
Well, and that's a tribute to their always wanting to continue to give back to the game. And I'm sure if you're a lot like me, I would ask my kids or my players, whether they be 9 or whether they be 18 or 21, depending on age. All right, I just asked you to do something. Now, I want you to tell me what I just said,
Yeah.
because sometimes they hear it completely different than what you're trying to get the point across. So, in talking about players, what does it mean to have you see those players come back to support your program now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got
Yeah.
to make it as a head coach going, "Oh, okay, I'm
Yeah.
I'm doing the right thing."
Yeah, I mean, this is their program. It's obviously my career, my job, but like it's their team and their program. And we always take, protect your program, protect your team, and it's really important that they take pride in that part of it. So I do think by them coming back, they are pouring back into their program. And it is very special to see that part. But they also love their experience here. And that's really hard to do in today's day and age, when you were starting to get into NIL and some money contracts, and it can be very transactional. And we just really want to balance that transformation side. Like, I grew up so much in college, and I'm so grateful for my college experiences to find out who I was as a person, that I want to make sure that their 4 years is like that for them too. And so if they really understand that the transformation of this 4 years here really catapulted them into the real world and their
Yeah.
livelihood, they're going to appreciate it and give back to it. And they do a tremendous job of that. And so we work really hard at it. We make sure that we do a lot of alumni connection and make sure that, people that are going down legal roads or doctor roads, they connect with alumni because they have a lot to share. But to see them come back and support it is just, it's the springboard to continue to grow this program.
Well, Lonnie,
Yeah.
we had the privilege of having Wade Boggs, one of our Florida Sports Hall of Fame members, on a mic'd up, and one of the things that we talked about and wanted to get your insights on this was the fact that how much today, of course, Wade, obviously, one of the great hitters of all time.
Yeah.
I said, how is coaching today? How are these kids reacting today? Because it seems like, especially in golf, I know this, but in baseball, there's so much data involved now. I mean, there's the trajectory of how you hit the ball and the speed of coming off the bat, and we've always tracked the speed of the pitch, but now there's all kinds of data that's gone in there. And he was talking about maybe the kids today get a little too much data, and they're worried too much about data and not about actually getting a hit and getting to first base. What's your view on that as a modern coach? Because I know you have to work with data, and how do you balance that out?
Yeah, I think any information is good information. It's just in how we give it, to the players. And to me, when you look at analytics and data, it's a non-biased number. Where sometimes as a coach to a player, you can feel like someone's picking on you, but then when you just pull up a number, you're like, oh, this is just your DNA. Just who you are, and then let's figure out
Yeah.
how we can make that successful as we go down the line. So for younger kids, for sure, they're still growing. They're going to get stronger.
Yeah.
They're better. So, it's just a little piece of knowledge is power kind of piece. But if it's the end all be all, then we're really in trouble, because then you're trying to hunt something that's, really tough to do. So, I think we just use it as a piece of information, and we try to share that piece and just really identify, like, there is one you and only you, and we're going to try to make the best you possible and trying to figure out all the pieces that help that grow.
Well, just hearing that element and how you shared that little story right there, I could only imagine what it was like whenever you're in Oklahoma City playing in the championship that's out there. Just that communication, that storytelling that has to go from inning to inning. And I'm sure every player has got a role. You got a job and you depend on it. And so, what's it like? Tell the fans, what's it like coaching in Oklahoma City, being in the College World Series compared to being at home? And we're very fortunate in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
When we play at home, it's very close to Oklahoma City. I
Yeah.
get that with the exposure and everything, but what's it like playing for the title?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, when you're one of the last team standings, right? Like that's the ultimate goal. And we're going to have a team meeting here today. And, we want to be that last team standing. And it is tough. It is not easy. And there has to be a lot of luck that goes your way and a lot of commitment, a lot of things that, but I know for every time we've been on that final stage and in the championship series, we've actually just really enjoyed it. The players enjoy it. And
Yeah,
my hope for every player when they get to that stage is they can look around. And I remember Kat Sandercock, just panning the stands, right? So yes, here at the Plex, it's incredible. You can look at your fans and you can see a lot of familiar faces. And when you get to the World Series stage, there's just a lot of softball fans, and your familiar faces are
yeah.
behind the out, but there's a lot of fans. But she just took it all in and, embraced it. And, I think that you work so hard for those moments and you're not guaranteed success, but you're on that stage, and I think it's really something truly special. So I remember when we won the championship, Elizabeth Mason, Jesse Warren Kinger, they were all just like, kind of like joking and having fun and having like really candid conversations in the dugout. They didn't need us as a coaching staff at that point, and I think when you arrived is when you can just step back and the players can take over
Right.
biggest moments. And that is our ultimate goal, is for them to really truly enjoy it. They've worked really hard for it, and we've been lucky for them to be able to not be so fearful of the outcome but enjoyful of the moment.
Well, I think that's a credit to you and your coaching staff as being those role models throughout the year. That when you get to that final stage, you just said it. We're there, but we don't need to be there. The players know what they got to do.
Yeah.
So that's a credit to what you're doing there.
Yeah, 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 a lot of fun. It's just, any of us watch the Super Bowls, any of us watch any of those big moments, and you become a fan. I always, when I was at Oklahoma, I worked with the sports information department when I was done playing, and they always said the goat or hero, right? Because I was on the camera, and one person would go, the person taking the pitch, and the other person would go to the person swinging the bat, right? Someone's going to strike out, someone's going to hit a home run. Like you have a moment, and you're in that moment, and there's an honor to be in that moment. And
Yes.
we always talk about that. So, I think that is truly special.
Lonnie, one of the things I know in the world of golf, we have something called the American Developmental Model, and it was developed by the U.S. Olympic Committee, and all the major league sports are in the PGA, Major League Baseball, NBA. I mean, everybody, any, men's and women's organizations that are major league sports got involved with this because they discovered that kids at an early age, most of them were giving up the sport that they took up by the time they were in high school because they hated it, because mom and dad got out there and they, and the kid's 5 years old and they want to have the next Tiger Woods, right? And
Yeah.
and one of the things it does is kids at different ages should do different things and play a lot of different sports. You had mentioned that softball is a year-round sport, and of course it is, and especially at that level, it needs to be a year-round thing for these athletes because now they're totally committed to doing it. What's your advice to parents who they're watching TV or they go to the game and their little girl looks like, I want to be just like them, I want to play. What would you tell mom and dad when the kids 8 years old and show some athletic ability, show some love of the sport? How would you tell them, hey, this is what you kind of want to do to be ready to get good enough to be able to play at that level?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of conversations at our camps with a lot of the parents, and I always joke with them. I'm like, "Thanks for being here. You're spending your mortgage and your vacation money and everything else, right, in these camps, and we're traveling around the country, and you don't know what it's for. You don't know what's ahead of you. You see everyone's success stories, but there's a lot of trial and tribulations behind it. And so, to me, it is really, really important that we keep the integrity of family together. I think it's really, really important that we take time to connect, and it's not the end all be all and getting base hits. It's about playing the game and loving the game. The minute you don't love the game anymore and the outcomes are all based on success, which is really hard to do in sport and really hard to do in softball and baseball, I think that you start to really hunt something that can be mentally, the mental health draining. Your joy goes down the drain a bit, and then you get to this opportunity to go to college, and you're not taking it for what it's supposed to be, your education, your growth, playing the sport at the highest level. You're just hunting outcome, and that becomes really, really tough in today's world, in anything, right? Like in jobs and everything. So I just say that I think that I'm so grateful for everyone that's a part of giving to the game, but don't forget the relationships with your kids, the relationships with the siblings. How many siblings have to hang around the ballpark because someone's playing, and then they hate the sport because they're there with and like, can we just go and do a little vacation time, and just like to keep the integrity together of family, which is really tough to do, and I always, the human nature piece, you just get caught up in keeping up with the Joneses. Everyone does. And but when you step back, what's most important for you as a family? What's most important for your daughter? As she gets on this trail. And so we have a lot of talks about that. And I'm fortunate because, I get to sit in this seat and experience 20 to 25 players every year grow through this game. And, I do think that the families are an integral part of it, but they just don't know where they're going. And so we try to help them guide along the way of just, understanding that there's a bigger picture to than just playing the sport, and it's growing the person.
You're so right, and working with today's kids is always a challenge. You just don't know the backgrounds, you don't know the makeup, and being able to have a program like you've developed and continued at Florida State is a credit to the kind of players that you're bringing into the game. We look at Bradenton in November, that's coming up here and everything. We hope we can see a strong following of Seminoles is going to be there to help honor you and recognize you for going in. And it's a special night. I mean, we've had, from Vince Carter doing it 3 years ago to Leroy Butler, a fellow Seminole, he goes in and everything. But to be recognized in a group like that, it's a credit to you. And again, congratulations.
No, well, thank you very much. And, I think, again, just like you two, we realize sport's bigger than sport, and how much the community comes together because of sport and opportunities. And so to be able to be one of these people that's recognized on this kind of stage is awesome. But it also is just about the people that are part of us and all of our journeys. And
Right.
I would not
Right.
be if I didn't have the staff that we have today, or Florida State, or the journey. And so it's celebrating community, and it's celebrating so many other things. And I'm sure it just so filling, probably, to hear the stories of every coach or player that gets up there and hear their journey. So I'm really excited.
Well,
Yep.
Lonnie, do you have a fun story out there somewhere? Something humorous, something embarrassing, something that's along the way that uh, for our viewers out there might be insightful to say, hey, gosh, they're just like you and I.
Yeah. I'm not the comedy person. I'm kind of the real person, but I will share, I've obviously been going through breast cancer and treatments. And, I think that human kindness is something that's just really, we all know it's out there, but this last year has been absolutely incredible for people supporting, reaching out, continuing to reach out. So many other people going through a journey. So, I think taking another side to it, and a little more serious side, we just don't know what people are going through. And that's why I think sport is so great, because it can just elevate us to a whole nother level and enjoy and appreciate the moments and the people. And I've always tried to live my life with gratitude and opportunity, but it has really been reflected this last year on, like, how much I appreciate the gratitude of human kindness, and people just supporting, and wrapping your arms around someone in need. So it's been an incredible journey. And for all those that are going through a fight, and for all those that are caretakers, my heart's with you. And for anyone that's running across someone that's having a bad day, maybe just put a smile on your face and give them a little bit, because you just
Right.
don't know what they're going through. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
that's special. That's special.
yep. Yep. Coach, I don't have all my kids are grown, but if I had a daughter, I would love for her to play for you.
Oh,
Just a great person.
well, thank you very much. I don't know how many more years I have in me, but man, we would get after it, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we would.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the future of what's coming down the road for you, and especially women's softball at the university level. Do you see something like 10 years from now that's going to be different than it is today? Is it evolving as the sport into different directions that you notice?
Yeah, well, I think a big one this year is, MLB has come on and supported our pro team, the AU SL, and they just had their championship yesterday, actually. And, we've
Nice.
been really fighting for a long time on getting a professional league. And we all know how long that takes. It doesn't happen overnight. Corporate sponsorship and TV, and everyone knows the money side of it. But we've got some tremendous athletes that really want to continue to play, like our current Seminoles that are playing. And Jesse Warren's been playing for quite a while now. Kat Sandercock plays in Japan. Elizabeth Mason, Michaela most recently was drafted and playing. And so it's like, so many are trying to continue to hold the torch and give opportunity. So I think that's the next big thing for us. And then once you get into that realm, then it's, can we be every 4 years in the cycle of the Olympics? Because then that gives opportunity for growth also. So unfortunately, there's a transactional piece to sport, and we've got to make sure that we get in those boardrooms and give opportunity. But I do think that so many people enjoy watching the game, the collegiate game. It's growing, just like the WNBA. And so for those that can see the future in women's sports and the opportunities, I think we're on the realm of getting after that. And Kim Ying has done a great job being our fearless leader in the professional league, and she came from Major League Baseball, so she's giving us a little insight.
Yeah. Right.
And it's been pretty awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, what are you involved with coming down the road here? Are you? I know that one of the things coaches do. You get involved with the community, and you get involved with different things out there. Might be a favorite charity or a foundation, or just flat out just getting out there and enjoying teaching kids how to play a little softball out there. What are you involved with recently? Off the field, as far as being a coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think community relationships are really big for us. And Every year we have a player on the team. Jason E. Beecham's our community relations person this year. And, we try to get 400 to 500 hours of community service throughout the season, whether it's picking up trash around town, whether it's going to TMH to visit cancer patients. We go to after school programs. I think, a lot of times as an athlete, you can come into a university setting and not really get to the outskirts of town, and embrace, our community. And so we really try to make sure that we touch a lot of those people that raise us up, here in Tallahassee. And 4 years of getting after a little bit of community. Now that becomes part of your life as you move forward, and then you can give back to your community wherever you end up going after you graduate from Florida State. And so, I think it's something that's really important to us and something that we really get after.
Well, Rick, we'll let you ask the final question to get her out of here so she could get involved with that camp. And you got about 100 rug racks out there, right, waiting for you.
Yes, yes.
Yep. It's something short and quick with the LA Olympics coming up in 28 and baseball and softball being back in, even though they were not part of Paris. What's your thoughts about softball maybe beyond 28 staying as instead of just a guest sport, and maybe the WBSC will understand it and keep it more of a full-time sport?
Yeah. I mean, I think we have a good chance because it's in Australia. And so I think that, when you get countries that play softball at a high level, they're going to support it because they want a medal in it, right? Where Paris was a little bit different. And
Yeah, right.
so we've got to make our sport worldwide. And, for opportunities, I coach with Canada, and we have an assistant coach, Kaylee Rafters, the head coach with Canada. So the more we can continue to grow our game, yes, we are all about USA and making sure that, we take care of our athletes here in our home country, but we've got to be a world sport if we want to continue to raise up the world sport and in the Olympics. And so, I think we're the hotbed to continue to grow it. Japan's been incredible, but
Yeah.
We've got to continue to reach out and grow our professional game, which then gives the opportunity for them to grow the international game. So, the WBSC, like, even in baseball, they struggle at times too, because they're trying to, between the pro guys and, the guys that,
What's MLB going to let them do this time?
Yeah.
No, you can't do it. No, not this year. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And their world game
exactly.
cool too, but yeah, so we all got our challenges, but we're fighting it. And I think we're doing it in a good fashion.
Great.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. We appreciate you, Lonnie. You've been listening to Hall of Fame Conversations presented by the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, celebrating actually Florida's great athletes and coaches since 1961. Brought to you by Mic'd Up, a platform that's live, interactive, brand safe, and professionally moderated. Hey, Rick Hatcher, thank you for being the co-host today. FSU baseball great and CEO of Treasure Coast Sports and past chair of the Florida Sports Hall of Fame. My name is John Rager, PJ member broadcaster. And a special thanks here to Lonni Alameda, who is the women's softball coach, a living legend that's not done yet and going to be enshrined in the 2025 class at the Florida Sports Hall of Fame in ceremony down in Bradenton, Florida, the Bradenton Area Convention Center. So, Lonnie, thank you very much for being on Mic'd Up, and good luck with your camp coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you so much. Go Noles. Appreciate you guys.
All right, I'll have to get involved with that too. All righty. Take care, everybody.
There we go.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you, Lonnie.